Well, hello there, my lovelies. It's been a while. How's it going? Life treating you well? This channel had a poll asking viewers about their most feared yet loved setting for creepy stories. A scary, creepy cabin in the woods was the winner. You asked for it, so I have two scary, secluded cabin stories for you. One is about a creepy cabin deep in the heart of the dark forest in the cursed Dudleytown of Connecticut. If you know the story of Dudleytown, you would never be crazy enough to visit this cabin. The second story is about a shack in the middle of a thick, overgrown swamp that's crawling with things just dying to get out. Well, let's get on with our stories.
Some places are evil to the core. To maintain their life force, they need to draw in and consume the living. This quaint cabin deep in a dark woods of Connecticut is such a place. This cabin didn't randomly choose its location. It intentionally situated itself near the now abandoned infamous Dudleytown village, which, according to legend, is cursed by an evil presence. If you don't believe me that there are creepy stories out there about Dudleytown, do some of your own research. As the legends go, several people who lived in Dudleytown either went missing or insane. Witnesses claim to hear strange voices and whispers deep within the forest, as well as seeing shadowy figures standing among the trees. Perhaps this is why the area is known as Dark Entry Forest. This cabin sits in the dark forest right on the edge of that legendary cursed location. It's pretty ironic that as a horror novel author, Jessica Brandon, whose pseudonym was Susan Parsons, never heard of Dudleytown or Dark Entry Forest. She was looking for a weekend getaway place to provide inspiration for a novel she was writing. She thought the online listing for the cabin looked perfect for her needs, and the guest ratings and reviews were all 5-star. A perfect escape, read one review. A charming cabin with all of the comforts of home. We don't want to leave. We love it here, read another review. We want to stay forever. This looks perfect, and it's available for this weekend, Jessica said to her husband Danny. And it's only about a 2.5-hour drive away. Jessica and Danny lived in an apartment in New York City. Danny was accustomed to Jessica's inspiration getaways, as she called them. Sounds great, Danny responded. Hopefully this will fuel another bestseller for you. Jessica had several errands to run before departing for her trip up to the cabin. She didn't leave the city until about 4:30 p.m. This placed her driving in the dark for the last leg of the trip, as it was late November. The businesses and homes started to become few and far between the closer Jessica got to her destination. She took the opportunity to pull off and buy some groceries and water when she was about 20 minutes away from the cabin. Do you happen to know this address? Jessica asked the sales clerk. He replied, I know Cornwall Lane that connects with the main road out here. That's about 5 miles away. But that road on your GPS leading off of Cornwall, I've never seen that before, the clerk said, shaking his head. He was a large, tall man in his early 70s, and he had long gray hair tied back in a ponytail. Of course, lots of strange things go on in that area, on account of Dudleytown. Are you one of those paranormal investigators? The guy asked, leaning down a bit closer to Jessica. Jessica almost giggled. No, I'm an author, although I do write horror stories. She beamed. But what do you mean, Dudleytown? What's that? Jessica asked. You write horror stories and you've never heard of Dudleytown? The clerk asked. I encourage you to look it up. There's quite a lot out there about the place. Lots of people have gone missing there, and lots of weird sightings and happenings occur there. It's in the Dark Entry Forest, and your destination is right on the edge of that. Perfect inspiration for my current story, Jessica said. Okay then, said the clerk. Just make sure you don't become the story. On the last leg of her drive, Jessica thought about what the store clerk had told her about Dudleytown. It sounded like a perfect backdrop for portions of her story. She was excited to get to the cabin, unpack her bags and groceries, and settle in to do some research about Dudleytown in front of a cozy fireplace. Jessica found Cornwall Lane and took a right off of the main road as the GPS instructed. It was a very small 2-lane road running through the woods. She saw on her directions that the next road to take was another right, but it didn't have a name on the map. It occurred to Jessica that she didn't get an address for the cabin. The email text from the owner simply said to follow the GPS directions using the drop pin location on the online listing. Jessica traveled on Cornwall until she hit the road on the map where she was to turn right. She stopped before turning onto the road, unsure of her directions. It was a dirt road leading into an even denser forest. Not a single street lamp, sign, or street name marker was in sight. "I guess this is it," she said to herself, and turned onto the dirt road. Jessica drove on the road for at least 10 minutes without seeing anything but trees. "Where is this place?" she asked out loud to herself. After another few minutes of driving, Jessica saw lights ahead. As she approached them, she saw that it was lights from a cabin at the end of the road. "Finally!" she exclaimed. Jessica grabbed a few things from the car and headed to the front door. She looked at her phone to see the text from the owner with instructions to enter the cabin. Jessica found the lockbox on the door and entered the code per the instructions. Jessica opened the door to find a pleasant surprise. The cabin was rustic, yet homey, and the owner had already started a fire for her. "I love this!" she exclaimed. She made a few additional trips to the car to bring in all of her things. After making a bite to eat, she settled down on the couch to read about Dudleytown. The store clerk was right. There were several online articles, blog posts, and documentaries about the cursed village of Dudleytown. She read about the multiple reports of missing people, and residents going mad, claiming they had heard voices in the woods, and saying they saw shadowy figures lurking and watching in the forest. These accounts brought her chills, which surprised her as a seasoned horror story novelist. She was getting tired, and before heading off to bed, Jessica called Danny to let him know she arrived safely. She explained to him about how she just happened to find herself in a hub for horror story inspiration with the dark entry forest and the abandoned, cursed Dudleytown being so close to her cabin. Danny didn't respond with the same degree of enthusiasm when he heard about the location. "I'm familiar with that place. I didn't know you were going there. Please be careful," he said. "Danny, seriously? Listen, I'll talk to you in the morning. I'm really tired and going to crawl into my cozy cabin bed. Love you," Jessica said. On her way to the bedroom, Jessica noticed a bookshelf and thought she'd see if there was any books about the area. She looked them over and saw a variety of fiction and nonfiction books. She then noticed a drawer and opened it. Inside, she saw a journal marked Guest Logbook. The latest entry was from 4 days ago. "Such a cute place. The whole family loves it," said the guest's arriving log entry. "We will stay forever," was the guest's log entry, the day after their arrival log entry. The prior guest's arriving log entry read, "We are so happy to have chosen this cabin to celebrate our first-year wedding anniversary." Then, as with the other guest's departing entry, it read, "We will stay forever." Jessica noticed the same pattern with all of the other guests' log entries. A favorable arrival entry about the cabin, followed by a departing entry stating simply, "We or I will stay forever." In the entry section, Jessica wrote, "Let's hope this cute place inspires me to make great progress on my book this weekend." Then she muttered to herself, "But I'm not staying forever." Jessica got into bed feeling a bit creeped out by the log entries, since she now knew about the tales of missing people from the village in the nearby forest. "Stop it, Jessica," she said out loud to herself. She started flipping through an old recipe book about local cuisine that she found on the bookshelf. It was something completely different than horror stories, the strange guest logbook entries, and the local legends of the dark entry forest in Dudleytown. Something to calm her mind and relax her for sleep. Jessica woke up to the sounds of something hitting the window at the side of the bed. She bolted upright. She saw a pebble hit the window, then another. She was scared to get out of bed and look out of the window. She waited for about 5 minutes, and after not hearing another sound, Jessica rationalized that wind kicked up dust and pebbles, blowing them against the window. She then drifted back to sleep. Jessica thought she was having a nightmare. She thought she was dreaming about someone banging on the front door of the cabin. To ease her concerns, she decided to get out of bed and look out of the front door. Jessica tried to turn on the bedside table lamp, but it wouldn't turn on. She used her phone to navigate the darkness as she made her way into the living room. The electricity was off out there as well. Jessica looked out of the front window and didn't see anything. She then waited a few moments and decided to look out of the front door. She only saw a dark woods in her car. She then realized that the banging she heard was most likely a bad dream. But now she had to deal with trying to get the electricity back on. It was 3 a.m., and Jessica was hesitant to text the owner of the cabin asking for help, but she decided to text. "Hello, I'm so sorry to bother you at this hour, but I woke up to no electricity. Is there a breaker box in the cabin?" She texted. "They will be there for you soon," was the immediate reply text. "I'm sorry," Jessica texted back, "but who will be here?" She waited 5 minutes and still no reply came to her question to the cabin owner. The banging on the front door startled Jessica since it sounded like the banging from her nightmare. "Who's there?" Jessica screamed. "Hello! Are you here to fix the electricity?" Jessica was genuinely scared now. She started to call Danny, but the phone was completely dark, and it wouldn't turn on despite several attempts. She grabbed her keys and decided to make a run for her car. That's when she saw them. They looked somewhat human, but at the same time, not like living human beings. Jessica ran to her car and jumped inside. Despite several attempts, the car would not start. The figures then surrounded her car, and with unhuman strength, started pulling off all of the doors. Jessica screamed as they dragged her out of the car and into the dark forest. "This cabin looks perfect for us to get away and unwind," Tammy said to her boyfriend Jake. "Look at the reviews." The most recent one from Jessica B. read, "Came here to inspire me to finish writing my recent book. It just lures you in and you want to stay. In fact, I think I'll stay for good. Just kidding." "Let's book it for this weekend," Jake replied.
Oh, she had so many chances to leave that cabin or not even go. But did she pay attention to the warnings? No, she didn't. So I guess she checked into that rental forever. So let's move on to a story about the shack in the deep, thick swamp. Why this woman chooses to live there by herself is beyond me. I suppose she wanted a water view, and that's just what she gets.
Martha had lived alone in the swamp for 20 years. No phone, no internet, just her cabin, the trees, and the water. She liked it that way. People were noisy, and people were nosy. People lied. The swamp was honest, but the rain had been falling for 5 days straight, harder each time, turning the narrow dirt paths to slop. The water rose past the tree roots, slithering up the porch steps. The frogs and insects had gone quiet. By the 6th night, she heard them. Voices. At first, they whispered through the cypress trees, soft as the wind. Then came the footsteps, wet, deliberate squelches in the mud. She peered out the window, but saw only the black of the flooded woods. The storm had swallowed the moon. Then something knocked. 3 slow, heavy raps against the door. Martha's hands curled around her shotgun, her pulse a steady thrum. "Who's there?" she called. Silence answered. Another knock. This time she saw the shadow through the rain-streaked window. Shape too tall, too thin. It wasn't a man. The shoulders bent the wrong way. The head cocked too far to the side, like a dead bird hanging from a branch. She backed away, her breath shallow. A third knock, then another and another. A chorus of dull, patient thuds against the walls, the door, the glass. Her cabin was surrounded. The doorknob turned. Martha leveled the shotgun, aiming at the door. "I don't know what you are," she rasped, "but you ain't welcome." The whispering stopped. The knocking ceased. For a long moment, there was only the rain. Then came the sound of water rushing inside. Martha gasped as she felt it, cold, slimy, ankle deep. It shouldn't be there. The door was closed, the windows locked, but the flood was inside now, creeping up her legs, dragging something with it, something with too many fingers. The lights flickered. A new voice, deep and gurgling, rose from the shadows behind her. "We didn't need the door." Martha spun around, shotgun raised, but there was nothing there, only the dark, the flickering light, and the water rising fast. It had reached her knees now, thick as swamp muck, reeking of rot. She took a shaky step back, her boot sinking into something soft beneath the surface. Something that shifted. A hand. She jerked away as pale, bloated fingers broke the water's surface, clawing at her leg. Another hand surfaced beside it, then another. The flood was crawling with them, writhing, grasping. A deep, wet breath sounded behind her. Martha turned and saw it. The thing stood in the corner of the room, half submerged in the water. Its skin was the color of drowned flesh, sagging like something long dead and waterlogged. Its head lolled on its too thin neck, tilted as if studying her. Its mouth, too wide, too full of teeth, curled into something like a grin. "Not enough room for you here," Martha said, voice tight with forced calm. The thing took a step forward. The water churned around it, more hands rising from the depths, reaching, whispering.
The swamp is rising. You belong to it now.
Martha fired. The shotgun blast lit up the room for a split second, the flash revealing something horrible. Bodies beneath the water, eyeless faces staring up at her, mouths moving in silent pleas. Then the light was gone, and the thing was still standing. It didn't bleed. It didn't stop. The water surged, hitting her chest now, the weight of unseen hands pulling her down. Martha kicked, thrashed, trying to stay above the rising flood, but it was swallowing her, pulling her under, pulling her in. She opened her mouth to scream, and the swamp filled her lungs. The next morning, the rain finally stopped. The cabin stood silent, half submerged in the flood. The door hung open. The inside was empty. Only the water remained. When the wind blew through the trees, carrying the scent of damp earth and decay, the swamp whispered.
The swamp is rising, and it is never full. Moral of that story: don't live in a shack in the swamp alone. What else can I say? Well, my lovelies, if there's any certain story topic you want to hear, leave a comment. Do you like vampires, demons, haunted houses? Tell me what you'd love to hear, and I'll write a story just for you. See you next time. Nighty night.